everyone, welcome back to Scylla's Pocats, or welcome to Scylla's Pocats. Welcome to a slightly different setup because we are currently fixing up my shelves. We had to paint my room and every book is where it doesn't belong at this point. So I have these shelves done behind me, so I thought this might be a nice backdrop for this video, which is one of the few times Scylla is going to make a TBR and at least try, emphasis on try, to stick to it. Because in June we have Pride Month, and if you have any idea of who I am as a reader, you will know that whenever an event month comes up, I do try to see if there's anything on my TBR that I can fit into the event. For example, in February I try to read Black authors, specifically mainly Black American authors. In June I like to read queer books, and whenever some other events come up, I either try to participate or at the very least I try to remember that it exists, right? I shouldn't have to make this disclaimer, but you know, very important. Number one, you don't have to wait for June to read queer books. You should be reading queer books all year round. And number two, queer is not a genre. So if you like thrillers, for example, maybe don't pick up a queer fantasy or romance expecting to like it as much as you like thrillers, okay? Queer is not a genre, it is a category of relationships and people alike that are not straight, not cis, okay? Cool, great. Listen, sometimes people are very strange about this. Next to me I have two massive piles of books. Another disclaimer for me personally, since I'm not very well known for sticking to TBRs, what I mainly have next to me is options. I like to give myself options, and because I have a pretty big physical TBR, though I pride myself in knowing that I've read a lot more books on my shelves than I haven't, I try to pick books from my physical TBR and don't rely on ebook copies or books I can get from the library. So if there's some books missing here that you would really like me to try that I haven't read yet, if I don't have them yet physically, they're not going to be in this video. Does that make sense? Right, great. Okay, let's start. So I have a couple of nonfiction. Some of them are not specifically about queerness, but I've put them on here to give myself, like I said, a little bit of an option. I've amassed quite a collection of nonfiction, and I tend to just not pick them up as frequently as I should. So here's a pile of 5, and we will see how many of them I can get some progress in during the month of June. The first one is one that my friend Steph is also reading with her book club, The Annotation Station. I'm gonna leave Steph's channel in the video description down below, but for June we are reading It Came From the Closet, Queer Reflections on Horror. I have had this collection for a while now, and I'm gonna tell you why in a second, aka why I haven't finished it yet. This is a collection of a bunch of queer authors reflecting on horror, what it does for them, what the genre does or doesn't talk about, does or doesn't do, intermixed with personal experiences of the genre as well as their own queerness. Every single essay in here, and I think there is 36. I could be wrong, but I think it's a pretty high number actually. Every single essay in here corresponds to 1 or 2 horror movies, some of them classics from the 70s to 90s, other of them about the remakes of said classics, some a bit younger, like Jennifer's Body, for example. However, the reason I haven't really read this like I would a normal essay collection is because there's a couple of movies in here I've never seen before, and even a couple that I haven't even really heard anything of yet, that are not as close in the cultural context that I move around in as I would like them to be. So what I like to do with this collection is I like to watch the movie and then read the essay. So we haven't really made a whole lot of progress in this. I will probably not finish this essay collection in June either, because there's some movies in here that are not accessible for me or that I couldn't find easily enough. And I do want to continue on with watching the movies first and having some sort of context before I do anything about them, before I, you know, gravitate towards them. But there's a couple of movies that I've managed to find online. There's a couple of other movies that I have watched where I haven't read the essay yet. So what I'm going to do in June is I'm going to try and catch up to the movies as much as I can and then read the corresponding essay. And I am excited for that. Let me just put that down here. The next one is missing its dust jacket, but this is a German nonfiction about queer life in the the, I don't know how you call it, West Germany, after Germany was split. There we go. This is specifically interviewing lesbians and gay men about their experiences living before, during, and after Second World War, and I got this initially a couple of years ago because I was really missing any sort of information on queer life in Germany specifically, because queer life always tends to be very Americanized unless you dig a little bit deeper about things. I started this initially, which you might or might not be able to see because of these things, but I don't remember a whole lot, and it's been a while since I last picked it up, at least a year, I think longer than that. So I'm just gonna read this from the top, because why not? I remember it having a very accessible writing style, so I don't think this is gonna take too long, except for on the emotional part. That might be a bit harder to parse, but I do want to dive back into this, and ideally I would like to finish this one in June if... like, this one is one of my priorities, I would say, from the nonfiction TBR. The next two are both more on the side of feminism than they are on the side of queerness, but especially with one of them, the back at least suggests to me that queerness and queer rights specifically are going to play a little bit of a role in here. And I just thought, you know, why not throw them in the ring? The first one is La Lucha, Latin American Feminism Today. This is another essay collection published by Charco Press. I got this one in one of their nonfiction bundles that I got myself for Christmas last year. And there's a lot of authors in here, some of which I've heard before, like Claudia Piñero or Isabel Allende, but there's also a lot of authors in here that I've never heard of before, and I always like a good essay collection. And the back says, where was it? Their solidarity and determination have been revolutionary in areas as disparate and as vital as environmentalism, decoloniality, bodily autonomy, intersectionality, and LGBTQ+ rights. So while this is not a dedicated LGBTQ+ rights or LGBTQ+ activism essay collection, I do think this might be very fitting for this month, and also I have it, and I might as well motivate myself to read it. So there we go, another essay collection. The next one I don't believe is an essay collection, and it is all from the same author. We are once again in the German territory. We have Vulva by Mitu Sanyal. I've read Mitu Sanyal before. I've read one of her fiction publications, Identity, which I highly recommend, by the way. And this is all about talking about how the word vulva doesn't really appear in discourse around female genitalia. We more so talk about the vagina, which, as a quote in the beginning says, kind of reduces cis female genitalia to a whole instead of the outer part, which is the vulva. And I don't exactly know where this thing is going to go, but I do believe it's going to talk a lot about how cis female genitalia is not talked about in any sort of discourse, usually becomes invisible, and how we could be approaching this from a scholarly perspective as well as from a perspective of like generally living all of this. I'm excited. We will see how much I enjoy this. Like I said, I've read two publications by Mitu Sanyal before and I really liked them, so I'm assuming I'm going to like this too. No idea how much it is connected with queer rights, but we have it here because, again, why not? I have it, and I have to read it at some point anyway because I want to, so. And last but certainly not least, this one scares me because I know I'm going to need a very big brain for it, but we have Beyond Personhood, an essay in trans philosophy by Talia May Betcher. Talia May Betcher is a trans woman in philosophy. She's a philosophy professor, if I understood this correctly. I've encountered one of her essays before on specifically identity language and how to have or reclaim identity markers in the trans discourse, so to speak. I really liked her essay. I found it incredibly insightful in ways that I had never considered previously, but it was dense. It was really dense. And this is essentially, how many pages? I kind of don't even want to know. This is 250 pages of dense philosophical writing about personhood and how that can or cannot interconnect with trans identity. I really want to read this. I don't think I will be able to get through the whole thing in June. Especially not with all of the other stuff I have going on, but like I don't even think I could be getting through this in June if I only read this book. So I'm gonna approach this very carefully and slowly. I'm gonna make a lot of annotations and I'm gonna look up a lot of words because there's a glossary in the back, and for some of these words I would have to look up the individual words in the in like the title description. This is gonna require a lot of thinking, okay? But I really want to try to at least start reading it. It has a lot of chapters and like sub-chapters, and I don't think the chapters are like super long. I think most of them are like 20 pages, give or take, which I can do. So maybe I'll just do like 2 or 3 of the chapters slash subgroups in this in June, and then be like, okay, that's enough thinking for a month. We're gonna continue this in July. We'll see. Right, that is the non-fiction pile. Now we get to a little bit of cleanup from May. I can think. We get to a little bit of cleanup from May. There's 2 days left in May. Today's the 29th, I think. As well as series discussion. I've posted a video at the beginning of this year, end of last year, one of the two, about my series goal, because I have a lot of unfinished series on my shelves, some of which are fully published, so I would just have to get the other books. It's fine. And for the others I would need to catch up, or I have them completed on my shelves, which is rare at this point, but I just haven't continued on with them. So we have a couple of queer ones here, because of course we do. So first and foremost we have what I would like to consider cleanup from May, because I started reading At the World's Mercy Volume 1 by Ningguan. I am about a bit less than a third into it, I think. I have hopes that I can finish the first volume in May still. However, I also have the second volume. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't think it's happening, because these are very pretty books. They don't leave my house, and I would essentially have to binge both of them tomorrow, or today still. Because on Sunday I'm at work, and it's a hassle, it's a long story. Don't think I'm going to be able to finish both volumes in May, is my point. So, Volume 2, at the very least, is going on the definite June TBR. Volume 1 is just going to be a question whether or not I can finish it in May still, and if not, on the June TBR it goes. We're fine with that. These are sapphic. They're lesbian romances. They're in the pseudo-historical line, which I really appreciate. I don't think it's fully wuxia because we don't have a lot of martial arts content here, but the general setting is that we have an empress who has abolished misogyny, or at least she's tried to, because now we have female court officials, and we follow the love story between either 2 court officials or 1 military officer and 1 court official, but that's all I know. And the first volume is going to start slowly building up their backstory, so I'm very excited. I've really enjoyed it as far as I've gotten, but like I said, Volume 2 is not going to happen in May, and I've made peace with it, okay? I'm just going to finish this series in June, and I'm going to be happy about that. Next we have one series that I've dedicated myself to try and finish in June. This is a trilogy. I've already read the first volume, and Sarah was kind enough to gift me books 2 and 3 because she's unhauled them, and I love that for myself. And that would be the The Ending Fire trilogy by Sara and Arifi. This is the first book, The Final Empire. Final Strife, I'm sorry. The Final Strife. I've read this one before and I quite enjoyed it, as far as I remember, but I don't remember a whole lot else. So we have 1 reread and 2 books that I will be getting to, and hopefully I will be able to finish another trilogy in the month of June. This is also sapphic. And next we have a little bit of a project that I've given myself. I've asked a couple of friends to weigh in, and all of them have said to just try all of them and then see what happens. But I have 3 first books in a trilogy of queer... I think all of them are sci-fi. Yeah, all of them are sci-fi. We have These Burning Stars by Bethany Jacobs. This is the Kingdom trilogy. All of them are out, for all of these, I should say. Then we have Ancillary Justice by Anne Letsky. This is also the first book in a trilogy, the Imperial Raj trilogy. Again, all of them are out. And we have The Blighted Stars by Megan O'Keefe. This is the Devoured Worlds trilogy. All of them are out. Can we see a theme here? And my idea is basically I will read all three, and then I will either continue with the series that intrigues me the most, where I'm like, I need to know what happens next. Or, depending on how much I like all of them, I will just be getting all of the books I'm missing from these series, which is 6 books that I would have to buy. Yes, I can do math. I'm so proud of myself. And then just see how far I get with all of them in June. Important to note, I'm not setting myself the goal to finishing all 3 trilogies in June, because with everything else I've planned, that is likely not happening, but I do want a good selection of things. For, like, representation, if I remember correctly, these Burning Stars is sapphic. I don't know if the characters identify as lesbian, but I do know that it's woola-woo, as they like to call it. Ancillary Justice, I don't know if there's any specific relationship tags for this one, but I do know that there's a lot of gender fuckery going on, not least because there's a people that essentially either refer to themselves with gender neutral pronouns or just don't have pronouns, something along those lines. And the Blighted Stars, from everything I can tell, is a male-female main relationship, but the male secondary main character is a trans bi man. I don't know how the woman in the relationship identifies, but that's as much as I know about these 3. Also, I do believe that the Blighted Stars is not logged as queer on Storygraph, so I'm going to complain about that at some point. And now, we get to the other ones. I've mainly just pulled out most of the, like, standalones or, like, only books that I have from series, if they are series. I think some of these are like kind of series, but I'm not sure. But I've mainly picked out all the queer books from my TBR, my physical one, that is. We start with Heap Earth Upon It by Chloe Michelle Howarth. This is sapphic / lesbian stuff. It is slightly historical, otherwise literary fiction, I believe. The author is the same author for Sunburn, which I haven't read yet. Everyone calls it incredibly devastating, so obviously I want to get to it at some point, but I have this one, so we're gonna start with this one, and then we'll see what's up. Next we have a repeat author for me, but a book that is new. We have Stag Dance by Tori Peters. I read Detransition Baby and I really enjoyed it. I loved Tori Peters' writing style, and I've heard that this one is really crazy. I've seen it appear on a couple of weird girl fiction stuff, so I'm excited. I don't know how queer the book itself is, but I know that Tori Peters is a trans author, so that's nice as a representation to have. Next, we have Roses in the Mouth of a Lion by Bushra Rehman. This is, I believe, literary fiction, and it is sapphic / lesbian fiction. Again, I'm not fully sure if these characters identify as lesbians or not. I will find out. But I really like the cover of it. And I do believe this is at least indie published, so that's always nice to have. If you think I don't know what I'm talking about with most of these books, that's because I don't know what most of them are about, okay? I see pretty cover, I see queer, I buy, right? Great. Where's the other one? There it is. Okay, we have 2 options from Grace Curtis, who is a queer sci-fi author. We have, I think, 1 sci-fi, 1 fantasy, if I remember correctly. Floating Hotel, which is sci-fi. Looks gorgeous. I love it. And we also have Idlefire. This one, if I understand it correctly, is fantasy, and I do believe there is a follow-up book for Idlefire coming out, or it has come out already, but it's like really recent released, that is set a couple of 100 to 1,000 years after the stuff that happens in Idlefire. Both of them are queer. And I just think that's really neat. Apparently you don't necessarily need to read Idlefire before you read the other one, but I didn't want to, you know, it was available as the paperback and for cheap, so I wanted to have it. Also, like, it's very pretty, so. Was I supposed to say no to that? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that pile is gonna fall down at some point. If you hear a very loud crash, don't worry about it. Alright, we continue on with a sci-fi. We have Plastic Prism Void by Violet Allen. This one piqued my interest because I saw a review on Instagram about this. I don't remember by whom, but I saw one. This is a very wild sci-fi with a lot of really cool and very bold choices when it comes to formatting. This is also indie published by Little Puss Press. I don't know a whole lot about it. I know that it's hella queer, and I love books that do something funky with their formatting, because I think not enough books actually take that chance to realize that when you are a visual medium, you can do fun stuff. So I'm really excited for this. I do hope that I enjoy it, because I just think the concept is so cool. So here's to hoping. And we have, I think, 4 more. Yes, okay. Another German one, another indie published one. We have Liminal Creatures by Eva Moore. I don't know a whole lot about this. I know that there's some music or like musical magic involved, I think. And I do believe there's demons, possibly, maybe. I know that the cover is incredibly stunning. And I know that I got it from an indie publisher that unfortunately has to close in October, I believe, ohne Ohren, which means without ears, and I think that's really cute. So this was one of the books I got from them to support their business until they unfortunately don't have a business anymore. This is a rather chunky boy. We are at almost 500 pages, but I want it. I do have, I think, 3 or 4 more from Ohne Ohren, from the publisher right now. I don't know how queer they are, because I don't do a lot of research into things, in case it wasn't obvious as of yet. But I know that this one is queer, so this one is definitively on the June TBR, and we'll see about everything else. I'm just gonna put you here now. Next, indie published as well, not self but indie. We have Demon Engine by Martin Knorr. This is, I know that there's some underwater shenanigans, and I know that there's some like weird demon magic and whatnot. And I specifically got it for the underwater shenanigans because I think not enough books are set underwater. Like, point blank. I think we need to do more with that, especially when it comes to horror. This is horror fantasy, I believe. And I'm excited. Because I wanna underwater. Remember? That's the point here. I'm very excited for that. This is just about 400 pages. It does look larger than it is, which I think is a little bit funny. But, you know, on the TBR it goes. And finally we have 2 hardcovers. Both of these are sapphic. We have When They Burnt the Butterfly by Wenyin Lee. This is, I believe, historical, supernatural mystery kind of vibe. We are in Singapore. We are in 1972. And there's some, like, secret societies and stuff. So, that's the vibe here. I know that this one is sapphic. I don't know if they're lesbians, but they do be kissing the women, and I love that for them. And don't fall. Last but certainly not least, we have Violady Villains by Danai Christopoulou. This is a sort of myth reimagining, sort of just, you know, having fun with characters, where Clytemnestra and Lady Macbeth meet in a weird space between their fictional universes, and then shit happens and they have to work together to fix it. I'm excited for this one. I do believe this is the debut for the author. I think When They Burn the Butterfly is also a debut. I don't know. It could be. But yeah, I think those are all the books that I've picked out for now. I am pretty sure that number 1, I still have 1 or 2 queer physical books somewhere. Number 2, I know for a fact that I have more digital copies of queer books, so if I get bored with any of what I've put onto my TBR, I can just go over there. Number 3, I know that my library has more queer books as well, which I think is rather delightful. And number 4, and almost most important, I know that there's some pre-orders coming in June that are definitely queer, because for a very curious reason, a lot of publishers like to churn out queer books in June. I wonder why that is the case. So with all of those, I don't know when they're coming, and I don't know how much I will be immediately drawn to them to prioritize these. So I've basically just put all of this together for now. As per usual with any of my attempts at a TBR, chances are pretty high that I'm just gonna do whatever. because that's how I roll, in fact. But I do want to get to a lot of these. I specifically want to prioritize my nonfiction and my series because I have a lot of nonfiction and I need to be starting to read them and not just collect them, and series is one of my big goals for 2026, so there is that. But with everything else, listen, I also need to be working on my physical TBR anyway, so we might as well try to make a little bit of a dent in here. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, and depending on how well you know me, you can also tell me if you think I will like these books. I'm always open to that. Even if you tell me that I will not like this book, I will still read it and form my own opinion anyway, so it's not like you can ruin anything for me, so don't worry about that. And also let me know in the comments down below if there's any books that piqued your interest while I just shoved them into the camera, and whether or not you have any plans for June as well. Did you try and keep some queer books behind so you could be reading them in June and feel good about yourself? Or do you just read whatever, whenever, and don't even know what a TBR is? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope that for the coming month of June you will have a lot of time to read and fun with your books, especially the queer ones. Have fun. This is the threat. No, I'm kidding. I hope that you have a nice reading experience as per usual, and I hope that you continue having a nice reading experience, and I will see you soon.